But tonight's workshop is all about praise quotes, back cover quotes, all that fun stuff. So we're going to be continuing a little bit on what you've been working on, Tom, which is great. And it's a fun one here. And it's been a little bit of time since we actually actively talked about back cover quotes, about praise quotes, early praise, all of that fun stuff. So I want to, like, before we get like too into tonight's activity, actually want to jog your all's memory about this one here. And really, like, in terms of this one, like, the huge thing right here is pretty much every book has quotes on the back cover, quotes from other people, other authors, notable, famous, whoever it may be, praising the book, the author in some way, shape, or form. And it's an integral piece that really ties together like the full jacket of a cover when the book actually publishes right there. And in terms of that one, like, my favorite story to always talk about is Dylan Dennehy, in that when I shared, way back when he published last April 2018, shared like how awesome it is to have a wall of back cover quotes as just as your back cover. And his book was all about music, so it was, a great metaphor for a mic drop right there. Is he really resonated with that, and he really took it to heart, and he ended up getting some really cool quotes. Like, he got the founder and chairman of SoundCloud, the drummer to CeeLo Green, the drummer to John Legend, Beyonce, like some really awesome musicians and like people in his space to give him, praise quotes for his book and appear on the back cover. And it was really awesome that he was able to do that. And when I asked him like how he got, like, Alex, the founder and chairman of SoundCloud, to like give him his first quote that unlocked everything else, he was like, yeah, I did it, but it took me 274 emails before I actually got connected to Alex and before I could actually make the pitch to him to actually give me a quote. And that's it's a cool story for Dylan, but nobody's got time to send 274 emails. And locking down quotes like that is hard to do, and unless you send 274 emails. But there is a thing to it where if you're really smart and thoughtful and strategic about how you actually think about back cover quotes, and it's why I've been calling it early praise from the very beginning, is that if you're smart about it, you can actually get people and have people, like really cool people, say something positive about you and your book without putting in as much effort as Dylan did. It takes some thoughtfulness to it, but instead of sending 274 emails, maybe you're only sending 30 emails, a much better ratio, more comfortable ratio right there. And in terms of that one, like, the first big thing and the first big hurdle to get over is that you have to get out of this mindset that nobody's going to write a quote for me. People will, and people already have, right? Like, that's why we did the exercise a couple weeks ago of like having your fellow authors say something positive about you, about your book, having friends, teachers, family, other people that say something positive about you, about your book. That's why we started there. Like, people actually are willing and able to, right? Like, you as fellow authors, like, unless you already have connections to people in the industry or a topic that you're writing about who will just write a quote no matter what at the drop of a hat, there are people that that you may not realize who can say positive things about you and your book, and to do it now to make your life easier. So, like, people actually will do something. And then the other big thing to really get over on this one is whether or not people actually want to read the book. Some people do, some people don't. That's just sort of like a 50-50. It depends on who you're talking to, how well you have a relationship with them, if they want to read the book, if they care, if the quote is about the book versus the author. Sometimes people want to read the book, sometimes people don't. But the good news is all of you have a copy edited manuscript, and a number of you have already started to get it back from layout or going to get it back from layout very soon. So you actually have like something like real to show people on this one. So you actually have quality substance behind you. You're not just saying you're doing something, but you actually have people who have said something positive, and you have a quality book to show for it as well. And then the other big hurdle is like a lot of these people, if you target like some really big names, like really like famous people or notable people or people with fancy job titles, is that a lot of times they don't have time. And that's where you have to realize, like, with these quotes that appear on the back cover, is most of them actually are written by the author, by the publisher, by someone else other than who actually gave the quote oftentimes. And I always look to myself on this one in my book, of like the quote I actually got from David Helgeson, co-founder of Unity Technologies, which is a multi-billion-dollar company in the video game industry. I interviewed him for my book, so I had that in my favor. And you can actually have people who you interviewed give you a quote for your back cover. And two, I actually wrote the quote because he was actually doing a number of, he was on a speaking tour at the time talking about the story of co-founding, the Unity, what it was like, the changes that happening in the video game industry, that he just didn't have time. So I just sent him 2 quotes through his assistant, forwarded it to him, and then he wrote back to me and said, let's do this one. And then he like jokingly asked me, is your book actually that good? And I said, well, you're saying it is, so it's very easy to actually get people who agree to a quote if you actually write it for them sometimes. So that's a thing to have in your back pocket as well. And the biggest one is that you can get some really cool people to pay attention to you. Like Dylan Dennehy, when he sent the 274 emails, literally had nothing. He didn't have a manuscript to share. He didn't have any praise quotes from fellow authors or friends or family or anything. He didn't really even have like any book sales to show for it. He just was a man on a mission and was like, I want Alex to write me a quote, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. But you all have a lot of really cool things going for you. What tonight's really going to be about is like identifying who those people are and then actually doing some 5-minute favors to actually get their attention and actually jumpstart those conversations and those relationships. And then the narrative you're able to share is, again, like you have a quality book. Your manuscript has been copy edited. It's in the process of going to layout. It's publishing. It's good. You have that backing and support from a publisher right there. 2, you have people who have already bought the book through your pre-sale campaign. You have an audience. You have interest at the market level. Like people have shown that they want to buy your book and that they want to read it and that there's interest there. And then 3, you also have your fellow authors, friends, family, and other people who have written early praise or agreed to do early praise for your book, that you already have the pieces that people are going to be concerned about. Nobody wants to be the first to give a quote. People want to know that the book is good. People want to know that there's interest and momentum behind it. And you have all of the pieces. It's now just telling those people that, oh my gosh, if I could get like Adam Grant to give me a quote for my back cover, if J.K. Rowling could write a quote for my back cover, those 2 will probably be a little harder to get. But in terms of that one, if you know people in mind, you have the narrative that you can tell to them to make that one happen. And this is where like tonight's main focus is all about, of like actually knowing who to target, like actually identifying. So like a part of it's going to be like identifying people you've interviewed who you think, would be amazing if they put their name behind my book. It would be really cool if they did that. But then also too, like thinking about like names and people, famous people, celebrities, things like that, because you can surprise yourself at who actually would respond. Or if there are notable people in famous organizations. So maybe you had no idea Alex, Lunge is the founder and chairman of SoundCloud, but founder and chairman of SoundCloud is a pretty awesome title. That like if you had someone like that, or if you had senior vice president of acquisitions, or executive of marketing, the chief marketing officer of Disney, you may not know their name, but you'd probably think they're pretty cool if you're paying attention to anything Disney is doing right now. And maybe it's not the name of the person that really matters, but it's the the job title that they have, or maybe even not the job title, but they're a part of a famous organization that maybe you'd love to work with, you'd love to collaborate with, you'd love to speak at, or you'd love to impact in some way, shape, or form. And that's maybe the way that you want to approach it. And that's where we're really going to start tonight, like actually identifying those people and then actually beginning the process of like starting those conversations through 5-minute favors right there. And if we do it right, like everyone should totally has all of the materials that if they wanted to, and they really actually wanted to get some cool people to write, awesome things about their book, it's doable. And the question for you is do you want to? Do you want to have, an awesome wall of praise quotes from really awesome people, or maybe even not even famous people, but like people that if they said something positive about you in your book, it would mean something to you. Like it should totally be within the realm of possibility for everyone to have that moment for them and have a wall of back cover quotes. Like this is a great example. You're wearing what? Like this is just like a wall of quotes. Like this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like it has 5 quotes and then like an abbreviated part of the description on it. Like if you want to have like a ton of quotes, like New York Times bestselling books, Wall Street Journal bestselling books, it's very doable. It's just a matter of identifying who you want to give the quotes and then having those conversations with people. And you have all the pieces right here in terms of that one. So does anybody have any questions, thoughts about any of that before we actually like get into actually identifying people, beginning that outreach process? Cool. So in terms of this one, there's actually, if anybody was paying attention to Quip or any documents that have been added to the folders, this is already actually been added into the folder for the past couple of weeks. Is that there are these 2 documents right here: early praise back cover quote outreach 1 and 2. You've already done part 1 in getting early praise from your fellow authors and some of your friends, family, other people who have said something positive. So you've already done part 1. But part 2 here is really the fun one, where it's actually about identifying, like, it would be in a dream world if Mark Zuckerberg, Oprah Winfrey, if the senior vice president of marketing at Disney, if the founder of this small startup, if a journalist at this newspaper, if these people said something about my book, it would mean the world to me. And that's really where it starts on this one. And what you should do is go to this document on Quip, be sure to create a copy of the document, and then move it into your launch and promotion folder and begin identifying who would you want to give a praise quote for your book.
Early praise back cover, huh?
Yeah, Brian, once again, I can't find that that file, so
I'll
what I'm
create
saying,
a copy for you.
it's not coming up. It's weird.
It's so weird.
You put it like in the chat room, right?
Yeah, let me Tom
I'm
Hyman.
clicking on, I can't get to it. It's just strange. I don't know what it is.
Let me just make sure like you're actually like in the folder. Like you should be. Yeah, you're in the folder.
Yeah.
Well, it's now in your launch and promotion folder.
All right. Thanks.
Find it. I'll tag you. I just saw there it is. There you go.
All right.
Tag
Thanks.
on it. And once you have your list of people that you want to give a quote, and you've already aptly like framed out of why them, and seems, Tom, like you have some good connections to people of either they gave you feedback or they appeared in your chapter, or maybe you even already know them, but they just happen to be pretty awesome humans, which is great. Is actually the piece of actually outreaching to them. And there are different ways you could actually do this. There are different tools, like if you try to find someone's email, again, it's probably going to be more relevant if you're trying to get like an executive at a company or a manager or a founder or like someone in a business, of like actually finding their email address, either through LinkedIn, or there are tools such as emailhunter.co. This is or no, that's no longer a thing. Rocket Reach, sorry, that one is the better one. Rocket Reach allows you to actually find people's emails. Like if you actually want to find the email of like Tim Cook or Mark Zuckerberg or anyone like that, as you'll see, there's actually a naming convention that a lot of companies use to actually how emails are done. And once you know email for one person, you can replicate it for other people. But then two, it's also about identifying what platforms people use. So for example, like Twitter is a really great way to engage with people, where like, let's say like you wanted, Jack Dorsey, the founder, of Twitter, right? Like to give you a quote, you should probably tweet at Jack Dorsey. You should probably tweet him. Not to say like you have to have a quote from Jack Dorsey, but if you did, tweeting him might be the right move, just because that's his platform of choice. Some people are more active on Instagram. Slide into their DMs, have that conversation with them. My favorite story of an author who reached out to someone in a unique way is Nick Wareham. So Nick published a book, and then published a new edition of his book in the past couple of years here, called Digital Hustle, all about music artists and the advent of platforms like SoundCloud and Spotify and how it's changed the music industry. And he actually reached out to a famous rapper on Snapchat, and actually was able to interview that rapper for his book because he sent him a Snapchat. So the real trick is to identify where they're active, engage with them, do a 5-minute favor. And if you're looking for 5-minute favor ideas, there are examples in the bottom of the document on where you built that list, as well as sample messaging to use. And then just lead with the fact that you have something worth sharing, and you have the audience, the praise, all of the tools you need to do that one. And then the last thing I will say about the launch happening in December, is at a high level, what I will share right now on the recording is that if you were expecting, like the authors that have published in the past, a single launch event happening in one city like New York, there will not be one individual launch event. There are going to be multiple launch events. I'll have more details in a recording tomorrow of how that's actually going to play out. And the way we structure launches and launch events at New Degree Press is twofold. One, there's a launch event that's local to you, the people that you know, and then also two, an event where it's got more authors involved, and it's going to be typically at a number of different cities across the country. So there's one where there are going to be more people, but not everyone. And then there's going to be one specifically for you that we always plan within like the logistics of the 20 weeks here already. And I'll have more details about how that actually splits and breaks down and what that looks like tomorrow. So if you're confused by this at all, don't worry, I'm going to have a recording tomorrow that explains that all. Otherwise, keep pushing on praise quotes, and I got to kick you all off for the next workshop with the authors publishing in February.
Okay, well, thank you.
Take care.
Take care.